On today's show, the nation's eye is on Minnesota, and it's our chance to show the rest of America why we love Minnesota. While folks may wonder what exactly Minnesotans do during the snowy winters, the answer is simple. Embrace the ice and snow. Next, Laura Schara has the winning recipe for your super party. And our Minnesota Bound Classic this week looks back on a visit with the great Minnesota Vikings coach, Bud Grant, a true Minnesotan on and off the field. Those stories and more next.
Minnesota Bound. Brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Minnesota Bound Super Show. Raven's not here because she's still in mourning over the Vikings' loss, but our super team is here. Man About the Woods, Bill Shirk, and my daughter, Laura. Now, Billy Boy, any interesting stories for you coming up?
Oh, yes, we've got a great one today, especially for people who can't understand our appreciation of snow and cold.
And Laura.
We sure do. We have a football-friendly recipe that celebrates our bold north.
Let's begin with a story about why we love it here in Minnesota, right? Yeah. Here's some things you should know about Minnesota. You betcha. In Minnesota, there's only one direction. That's north. Everybody goes north for the weekend. That's where all the lakes are, surrounded by cabins, docks, and beer joints. Our license plates say 10,000 lakes, but that's a lie. We have almost 12,000 lakes, but to say so would be, bragging. With all those lakes, it's a good thing we like to fish.
Oh yeah, beautiful.
We might rank second in hog production in America, but we're number one in fishing license sales per capita. If you don't fish in Minnesota, chances are you dig worms for those that do. There are three major holidays in Minnesota: Christmas, New Year's, and Opening Day. Yep, 500,000 folks hit the lakes for Opening Day in May to catch whatever bites. In this state, the fishing opener is the biggest sporting event of the year. The number one fish we catch the most of are known as panfish, such as bluegills and crappies.
Doubles, man.
But the number one fish we love is the walleye. Love to catch them, love to eat them. It's our official state fish as declared by our legislature in 1965. The lawmakers finally got something right. Walleyes are so important, we even keep tabs every April on their mating success. I know that sounds a little strange, and we probably shouldn't be watching the male and female walleyes spawn, but, well, we need to know how they're getting along. In November, there's another opening day that brings a sea of blaze orange into the state's woodlands. It's the firearms deer season. More than 500,000 deer hunters go in search of venison, but roughly 7 out of every 10 hunters will return empty-handed, but still fulfilled by the experience. To do all this hunting and fishing, we spend a lot of money. Millions, it's said. You need everything from deer stands to ATVs to campers to fishing boats, lots of rods and reels, and the price of night crawlers keeps going up, don't you know? Minnesotans love boats, of course. In fact, we rank number one again in boat ownership per capita. There's more than 800,000 boats registered in the state. That amounts to 148 boats for every 1,000 residents. You know, thankfully, we don't say much about the money it takes to do all this hunting and fishing and camping and going to sports shows. That wouldn't be smart. A spouse might hear. Despite all the Super Bowl hoopla, you should know we also crave solitude sometimes. Places where you can have a meeting with yourself and learn about life. One such place in Minnesota is known as the BWCA, the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness. No motors allowed there. To move, you paddle or walk. It's true wilderness, so life goes back to the basics. You cook over fire, your bed is the ground, you make do with what you can carry in a Duluth pack. You're welcome to try it sometimes. It's good for the soul. When you leave the wilderness and return home to modern conveniences, well, you'll stop whining. Gosh, I haven't even mentioned the many faces of Minnesota. How about the North Shore of Lake Superior, the world's largest body of fresh water? See the limestone bluffs of the southeast and fish the trout streams. See the native prairie and duck marshes amid farm country. Explore our vast northern forests, home to moose, black bear, timber wolves, and the occasional goofy ruffed grouse. I haven't even mentioned the many ways we frolic on ice and snow, but that's another story by itself. As Oli and Lena like to say, we have 6 months of great snowmobiling and 6 months of not so great. Well, I've probably rattled on long enough. I hope now you know why we like it here. Oofda.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Minnesota Select GMC Dealers, Rapala Ice Force, Star Bank, and by Connecticut.
Welcome back. Now that we know why we love it here in Minnesota, what about all this ice and snow? Well, I know just the guy that can explain that. Bill Shirk. I'm going to hand this off to you, Billy.
Nice pass. Yeah, there are plenty of fun things to do around here this time of year. And believe it or not, most of them are outside.
Simple fact, Minnesotans cannot escape winter. Temps always fall, and so does the snow. So we choose to get up and get outside.
You all set?
Hard to blame outsiders for the Minnesota cliches. Around these parts, we sled dog because we can, not because we have to. Fact is, our snowy travel can be rather entertaining. Cross-country skis provide plenty of exercise and make getting around, well, kind of fun.
Good one.
Sure is soft snow.
At least most of the time. Some hardy souls even ski up frozen rivers.
You're getting in there further and further, and the walls are steeper and steeper, and then all of a sudden you turn this corner, and as you see, there it is.
The way back out happens to be straight up.
Minnesota is quite an excellent place to ice climb, and a lot of people don't know it.
Whoa! Whoa!
That was amazing.
Some Minnesotans prefer a slightly faster pace. Instead of rivers, we stick to frozen lakes.
Nice! Yeah, invert it back.
Just the power of the wind, it's amazing. On a busy day, you'll see 20, 30, 40 kites out here shot, and it's really beautiful to see just kites everywhere in the sky of every shape and color.
Even when the Weather Service tells us to stay inside, some folks go out and off the grid.
Wind is brutal today. 30 below wind chills.
I mean, it's never going to be colder than this.
Makes sense that winter campers dig in to sleep in the snow.
Building this thing, let it set up, dig it out, and it's like you're making a little home for a couple nights.
Starting to look like home.
We crawl into snow caves under a cold Arctic moon, our version of human hibernation. Come morning, maybe Minnesota's most notable winter sport.
We're saying wind chills are 30 below right now. Well, that's why I can't talk. Holy cow.
Winter anglers covet the quest for what hides in our frozen lakes.
Another nice little rainbow. Another one for the table tonight.
Nice work.
Even though it's 30 below wind chill, still love catching nice rainbows like this.
Our love affair with winter fishing leads some to celebrate by building artistic ice fishing houses.
This is the music box shanty. We have a saw player. a washboard player, and they got a gal who does a little clogging. And a whole bunch of tissue paper comb kazoos. It's a regular hootenanny.
Truth be told, maybe the cliches about us are true. Just look at how we enjoy our snow, cold, and ice. It's enough to make an outsider think we're all crazy. And maybe we are. This time of year, Minnesota nice is Minnesota ice. And you know what? We all love it.
A quick tip on how to stay warm and enjoy the big game is, well, dress like Minnesotans do. Grab yourself a pair of mucklucks, a trapper hat, and a locally made stadium blanket by Faribault Mill.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Minnesota Rebath.
Welcome back to the Minnesota Bound Super Show. Up next, Laura Schara is getting wild in the kitchen with an outdoor-inspired app for the big game.
All right, it is time to pass the plate at Wild in the Kitchen today, and I'm here with Chef Kevin Convulsion from Firelight Grill House and Cocktail Bar. And Kevin, I think you were doubting I was going to catch this football.
I was a little bit, but yeah, you did great.
What? All right, it is time to make some Super Bowl football food, and I can see that I'm loving the ingredients that are out here. So what are we making today?
We're doing venison jalapeno poppers wrapped with bacon.
Wrapped in bacon. Oh my gosh, we have venison, beer, and bacon. Nothing better for football Sunday. Let's do it. Now these are shallots versus a regular onion, yes?
Yep. I think they offer a lot more flavor.
All right, shallots are chopped.
And then this is about 7 to 8 ounces of ground venison. While that's cooking, we can cut our jalapenos in half. And I would highly recommend wearing gloves. We are gonna slice the jalapeno just off the side of the stem. All right, so now we're ready to make the filling. We've got our venison cooked off. It's still really hot. And that's gonna help us soften the cream cheese as well.
How much cream cheese?
That's 6 ounces.
6 ounces.
We have a half a cup of Parmesan.
Love that.
Dump this in.
Now that's not overly cooked, I'm noticing.
No,
It's just a little
yep.
undercooked.
It's gonna continue to cook as we bake them as well. Otherwise.
We're putting it in here hot.
Yep, that'll help us soften it up.
I like that, it smells so good. Do we just mix it like this?
Yep, and just kind of incorporate all those ingredients. And then next, just gonna take a spoon and just kind of fill each one. Just kind of marry them back together.
Our jalapenos are stuffed, and it looks like it's time for
Ready
the
to
main
wrap.
ingredient here.
Yeah, the bacon.
Bacon.
All right, so there is a way to do this.
There's
have
an
it
art.
come off. Yep, so I like to start going one way and then wrap over. You can take a handy dandy toothpick. So then those go straight in the oven, 400 degrees for about 15 minutes.
How easy.
Easy.
Now we have a sauce we have to make.
We're gonna make our yum yum sauce.
I'm sorry, what'd you call it?
Yum yum.
That
So
sounds pretty good.
We're gonna start with some yogurt. This is just plain Greek yogurt. We got about 1 cup. And we have tomato paste. We're gonna do about 1 heaping teaspoon.
Teaspoon.
This is smoked paprika.
One of my favorites.
Chopped garlic, just 1 teaspoon. And then we've got some fresh chopped chives here, about 1/4 cup. And then sriracha. Just whisk that together.
And our last ingredient, and the
little-
most important,
A little bit of beer.
beer. Well,
Perfect.
should we check on our poppers?
Let's do it.
Ooh.
Yeah, they look great.
Now this looks like we're ready for some football. So there you have it. No better way to share the fruits of your labor than a little venison on Super Bowl Sunday. All right, go in for a taste.
All right.
Here we go. Oh my gosh. This is definitely a touchdown, people. So good.
Coming up, our Minnesota Bound Classic about the one and only Bud Grant, not only a legend on the football field, but also in the great outdoors.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Mountain Dew, River Valley Power and Sport, and by Totem Resorts, the premier destination for world-class fishing.
Time now for a Minnesota Bound Classic, a story about the one and only Bud Grant. By the way, for a bit of trivia, I took him on his very first wild turkey hunt. How about that, huh? In Minnesota, when you say Bud, it's not a brew. It's a legendary football coach famed for his steely eyes and face of stone.
I didn't create that. You guys created that.
His name, Bud, also isn't really his.
Harry Peter Grant Jr. Now, I've got a Harry Peter Grant Sr., that was my father. I have a Harry Peter Grant III, that was my son, and I have Harry Peter Grant IV, my grandson. So there's four Harry Peter Grants in the directory.
Where'd the Bud come from?
Well, you can't, when you got two people with the same name in the same household, you call Harry, who's gonna come? You know, my father or me. Well, so my mother started calling me Buddy Boy, and then that just went from the Buddy Boy, I changed it to Bud, and so that's how it comes on.
Now in his 80th decade, Bud Grant maintains the same two passions he's always had, sports and the outdoors.
I hunt every week. I got a grandson playing at the University of Minnesota. I got a grandson playing at North Dakota. I've got a son who coaches high school football, which won the state championship for the 7th time this year. And then I at the Vikings on Sundays. So football is still an interest of mine.
Coach Grant lives alone in the same South Metro Rambler first bought after joining the Vikings way back in 1967. It also was a home shared with his wife Pat, where they raised 6 children, hunting dogs, and ravens. Pat died in February 2009. Today, the house has been turned into Bud Grant's man cave.
If I didn't know better, I'd say you like antlers.
And I got the grandkids, they'll say, Grandpa, where'd you get that one? I'll tell them.
Have you ever counted how many antlers you have in here?
It's probably 100.
Really?
Yeah. And they're not all trophies, but they do represent a story.
Grant's athletic career spanned almost 4 decades, including not 1, but 4 Super Bowl defeats. Is he over them?
Well, I'll tell you, if you're going to be in coaching, you suffer through those losses for one day. If you're going to keep your sanity, your mental health, it can't last more than a day.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go on to the next step.
Mm-hmm.
If that's going to eat you up, you're in the wrong business.
Do you miss coaching?
I do every time I go to the bank. You know, nowadays the coaches make a lot more than I ever made.
But when the subject is the outdoors and conservation, Coach Grant is far from silent.
I enjoy the outdoors, and if anything I can do to help, because, Ron, you and I hunted quail in southern Iowa, I don't know how many years ago. It'd be too far to go back. But, I've seen the deterioration of our wildlife and our places to hunt and fish and expanding populations and whatnot. Minnesota is very, very lucky. I mean, if you go to, say, for example, to Texas, you couldn't hunt deer in Texas unless you got a lease or you hire an outfitter. That's what I want to maintain, make sure that we've got this public land so that our grandkids and you and I still, as long as we can get around, can still find a place to hunt and fish. It's Boom.
Boom, huh?
I think that's an appropriate name for a dog.
Yes, it is.
Oh yes, his other pet is a monarch butterfly.
They live all year. It's a little monarch.
So goes the legend of Harry Peter Grant Jr. Boom the dog and a butterfly in a jar, not far from an NFL Hall of Fame bust in close proximity to wolf pelts hanging amid other stuff. Memories all. Which raises the question, what's left when you're a legend?
So you say, what's ahead? Tomorrow is ahead. That's about as far as I can look.
You know, you talk about a classic, Bud Grant is that. Well, that about does it for us. Remember, introduce a kid to the great outdoors. Raven will be back next week, and my super team, Bill and Laura, will be back with me too.
Teamwork.
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation. Call 1-800-899-7433. get more Minnesota Bound, including full episodes, go to mnbound.com. And to follow our latest adventures, like us on Facebook.